Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Jackie Holland, and it is my honor to be here this afternoon to celebrate the life of a remarkable woman. Let's just take a moment, by whatever faith tradition you may follow, and in the beauty of this amazingly glorious park, just take a moment of silence. Thank you for being here. We're here today in this beautiful place because this woman has touched all of our lives one way or the other. So today we are here to celebrate her life. And yes, we are here to grieve her loss, for truly it is a loss to this community and to our world. Before we begin the actual service, I just want to do a little bit of explanation about this amazing array that her daughter and family has put together. First of all, when you came in, you will notice that there was a table that has prayer flags, Tibetan prayer flags, and they're the different colors. You see, you can choose one of these pieces of fabric, and there are stencils and pens and pencils, and you can use those, and you can make your own prayer flag, and then you can hang it up with these beautiful little, aren't these cute? These are so cute. These cute little what do you call this? Clothespins, only for munchkins, little munchkin clothespins. And so we're going to hang them up. And so whenever you're moved, just get up and go make a prayer flag, or do it afterwards, because her daughter is going to be making a prayer flag out of it and hanging it on special days to remember and to commemorate and to recognize her mother. So this is one thing that's happening that we want your participation in. And the second thing that's happening is these wonderful leaves. These wonderful, beautiful, fall-colored and lovely leaves. And what we're asking you to do at this table is to select a leaf and to write a word on that leaf that comes to your mind and to your heart when you think of Louise. It's easy, isn't it, to come up with words for her. Supportive, creative, amazing. But you each have your own words. And so as this service continues, please feel free to come up and to write your word and to make our tree blossom with all the beautiful trees as the service goes on. So that is one of the ways that we want you. How did she influence you? How did she impact your life with one word or the other? And then make a prayer flag. Now, the program has been beautifully created so that at the end of the service, you can take this home and you can cut it and you can use this as a photograph of Louise so that you can remember her. So there's so much to do, so many beautiful tables that her daughter has set up here. Here's the memory table. You really must read. You put together an amazing history of your mother in that book. It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing your heart with us. And over here are her professional accomplishments and her wedding photos and so forth. So we're inviting you just to participate in this to whatever amount that you wish to participate in. So let's just take a deep breath together. Breathing into your strong, healthy lungs right in this moment. And grateful to be here together in community, to recognize, to remember, and yes, to grieve. So this morning, I want to tell you what I know and what I believe. I believe that birth is not the beginning and death is not the end, but rather they are parentheses in this thing that we call life eternal. Spirit, God, whatever word you want to use for the great Creator, makes it easy for us to release her today, to release Louise today, because we know that something made in the image and the likeness and out of that which is spirit itself has returned to her life eternal. That's the easy part. But the human side of us is very difficult to let her go. When we think of her smile, when we think of how she supported and lifted, when we think of her legacy, when we think of all that she stood for, those blue eyes that could pierce you when they looked at you, that smile that could warm up a room, God made it hard for us to release her today. But I am comforted to know that she is dancing in her body of light. She is dancing in her celestial body, in pain no more, afraid no more, hurting no more. And while humanly we grieve, spiritually, we take a moment and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. When I think about being here today to honor, to celebrate, to reminisce, to get that crazy word closure, which is a word I hate, but we're here today to celebrate the energy, the consciousness, and the humanness of this remarkable woman. And the legacy that she leaves us is a legacy of how she helped every single person that she could in her life. That's why I'm here. That's why she's so deeply loved. In a few minutes, we're going to have an opportunity for sharing, and afterwards we're going to have an opportunity for sharing. But right now, I just want you to bring to your mind's eye this idea of our beloved Louise and what she meant to you and how she impacted you. We're going to have a eulogy now. Let me look here. With Greg, Irwin, and Lindsay Erb. Greg and Lindsay.
Louise Fay Luster grew up in northern Illinois in Round Lake. She was the third child of Beatrice Stilson and the first of John Ansley Luster. Louise had an older brother, James, and an older sister, Marilee. And when Louise was 9, her sister Gina was born. The family vacationed across the country quite often, visiting relatives in California and Alabama. Louise had many stories about visiting the Southwest Native American ruins and national parks. Louise had a great interest in archaeology, especially in Native American history, ruins, artwork, culture, and music. Louise also had a big heart for animals. Throughout her childhood, she had a pet here or there, but most of all, she had a lifelong dream of surrounding herself with animals. When she graduated high school, she moved to the city of Chicago to live with Marilee. Louise worked downtown for the Chicago Railroad and enjoyed time with friends on the weekends while pursuing her hobby of parachuting. She met her first husband and was married to him for 5 years before separating to pursue different dreams. Louise continued living in Chicago while her sister Marilee moved to Canada to marry a businessman, Bruce. On occasion, Louise would go up to visit Marilee and Bruce and spend time at the summer cottage in Ontario, Canada.
Louise always wanted to move out west and was focusing on herself when she met Tom Poremba. Tom had his pilot's license for gliders at the time and used it recreationally on weekends. Louise worked with Tom's cousin, who set up a time for Louise and Tom to meet so that Tom could take Louise gliding. Due to bad weather, the trip was canceled, but Louise and Tom still hung out for the day. And as everyone knows, they ended up continuing the rest of Louise's life together in a loving marriage filled with adventures. Louise's honeymoon was the first time she had gone overseas, and she loved every bit of it. From the English Channel to the Swiss Alps, Tom and Louise pursued a shared dream of riding motorcycles. They both purchased their own motorcycle and would go on weekend trips around the Midwest. Louise and Tom shared another dream of leaving Chicago, and Tom was open to moving west. A short time later, they said goodbye to loved ones and made their cross-country trip to reside in Phoenix, Arizona. They soon purchased horses and filled their weekends with trips around the Southwest by means of their motorcycles or camping with the horses. Louise also had dreams of living near the coast, and after Tom got tired of the dry heat, they decided to go to California. Tom and Louise settled down in a townhouse just outside of San Diego. Of course, they brought the horses with them, and they were boarded at a nearby ranch. Soon after the move, Louise had her first child, Katie. The only thing that changed when they became parents was the retirement of their motorcycles for a reliable vehicle. However, they continued their horseback camping trips, along with weekend adventures on the coast or to Disneyland. At this point of Louise's life, she met and became lifelong friends with Eleanor.
After living in San Diego for 3 years, Tom and Louise decided they wanted to move somewhere that was more affordable, which brought them here to Boise, Idaho. Always the trendsetters. They bought a horse on a large property in a community called Sage Acres. Here they had a big backyard and a pasture for the horses. Tom, with his architectural background, decided to build a barn on the property for the horses. Of course, this barn also allowed them to have other animals, just like Louise always dreamed of. During the 26 years of living in their Boise home, Louise had horses, sheep, ducks, chickens, dogs, cats, and various indoor pets. While living in Sage Acres, Louise became lifelong friends with neighbors, some who are here today. Louise always wanted 2 children, a girl and a boy, and also wanted them to be close in age. So after a few years, Louise was pregnant with Zachary, the little boy she always dreamed of. Louise was a fan of Irish traditions and St. Patrick's Day, since her ancestors immigrated from Ireland. She followed the local Irish pipe group, the Highlanders, at festivals and on St. Patrick's Day. Loving the sound of the Irish flute, Louise invested in a flute and taught herself how to read music and play the instrument. Another thing she taught herself to do was to be a teacher. At one point, she homeschooled her daughter for a few years. Most of Louise's family moved to Phoenix, Arizona around this time, and she made sure to see her family every Christmas. Once Katie and Zach started public school, Louise invested in a spinning wheel and started spinning the wool that her sheep produced every spring. Tom and Louise invested in a pop-up camper trailer when the kids were young and would take the family on 2-week adventures throughout the Southwest, Pacific Northwest, and the Rocky Mountains.
In the early 2000s, she embarked on writing a book called The Celtic Knot, and in 2002, she had what Tom called her midlife re-emergence, rather than a crisis. She became an accomplished and respected member of Idaho's theater communities as an actor. She acted in plays including The Bad Seed and Taming of the Shrew for the Actors Guild Community Playhouse, romantic comedy at Stagecoach, The Night Thoreau Spent in Jail at Spontaneous Production, and murder mysteries with Death by Murder. She became a patron of Prairie Dog Productions and was a familiar face in the audience at virtually every one of their plays. She was a big fan of Tom's productions as well, and loved watching him perform on stage. While auditioning for a musical, she met Seth Randall, who was directing a controversial documentary about the 1955 Boys of Boise scandal called The Fall of 55. Lou had never produced a film, but she flourished in the role, reading every book she could find about the business aspects of filmmaking, subscribing to trade journals, and learning voraciously. She proved invaluable to the film and quickly advanced to executive producer. Louise got The Fall of 55 listed in the Hollywood Reporter, drawing industry and festival awareness of the project. She organized fundraisers and helped recruit cast and crew. She promoted the documentary at the American Film Market in Santa Monica, in the media, and at film festivals. The documentary had its world premiere at a New York City film festival. The film's Idaho premiere packed Boise's historic Egyptian theater to standing room only. 100 people had to be turned away at the door.
Since then, the documentary she helped shepherd to completion has been used by high schools, colleges, and universities around the world. It's ignited conversations at community screenings, film festivals, in academic journals, and various books. The film motivated one former Boisean to write and publish his memoirs of the Boys of Boise cases. Just 3 months ago, the online media outlet IndieWire recommended the film. Most recently, the film has inspired an original musical set to premiere in the spring of 2022 at Boise Contemporary Theater. Louise believed passionately in the untapped potential of Idaho's people, places, and stories. So in 2003, Lou established CTP Films, a company dedicated to helping grow the Idaho film industry, either by shooting projects locally or enhancing the careers of Idaho's production crews and actors. Before her passing, CTP had obtained the rights for numerous original screenplays, books, and life stories, and was pursuing a docuseries telling the harrowing stories of government whistleblowers in America. Beyond that, she supported other writers in their craft as co-chairman of the Idaho Screenwriters Association. She was involved in community arts organizations, including Boise Cutters and Idaho Media Professionals. Louise gave selflessly on behalf of Idaho's creative community. Her presence is missed, but her contributions live on. Louise was also a skilled author. She wrote an accompanying screenplay for her action thriller book, The Celtic Knot, set in Northern Ireland and rural Idaho. In 2008, the screenplay received the Arthur Rosenfeld Award for Excellence in Writing, presented by the Action on Film Festival in Long Beach, California.
In 2007, Louise and Tom once again invested in motorcycles, taking weekend trips during the summer to Oregon and other parts of Idaho. Louise and Tom always dreamed of retiring as expatriates, and once they decided on a retirement age and location, Louise and Tom began decluttering, especially once they became empty nesters. In 2018, her oldest child, Katie, married, and Louise gained a son-in-law she adored, Travis. Both Louise and Tom retired in the spring of 2020, right when the pandemic hit, causing them to cancel their going-away party and making it impossible to move to Ecuador at that time. However, they got to enjoy one last summer in Boise, living along the Greenbelt and enjoying the retirement lifestyle. In September of 2020, they said goodbye to the US, and Louise made her last move to Cuenca, Ecuador. There she lived her dream of warm winters, living in a large, beautiful home, having a housekeeper and a cook. Louise enjoyed the sunroom she always dreamed of, and had a lime tree in her front yard. They adopted a dog that had his own house-visiting vet, and enjoyed the visits of hummingbirds that are found nowhere else in the world.
Louise fell in love with Ecuador a little more each day and began collecting alpaca robes and blankets, native artwork, and pots. She filled her playlist with Ecuadorian flute music. She visited the tropical coast of Ecuador in January and enjoyed the parrots, barking geckos, and large iguanas in the neighboring palm trees of their beachfront vacation rental. Louise submerged herself into the culture, became friends with fellow expats, went out to listen to live music on a regular basis, became a regular at local restaurants and bars, walked the green belts of Cuenca's rivers, and was able to sit in the town's main court and people watch under the famous blue domes of the city's cathedral. She might not have been able to enjoy her paradise for long, but she made it there, she experienced it, she lived it, and she loved it.
Louise was humble, selfless, loving, proactive, an entrepreneur and a dreamer who found ways to make her dreams come true. She has touched so many lives across so many lands and has inspired others to follow their dreams, to never give up, and to stay true to themselves.
Hi, I'm Louise's husband, Tom. And thank you, Lindsay. I was doing good for the last little bit. I'm going to read a poem entitled A Life Well Lived. It was written by Louise's daughter, Katrina. Please do not mourn for me. I lived a life which was good to me. I laughed and loved before willingly departing for far above. I cried with love and sorrow, while always planning for a tomorrow. I yearned and planned my future, rafted rivers and frolicked in nature. I traveled to distant lands and held many loved ones' hands. I drove cross country quite a few times, lounged on beaches, drinking cocktails with limes. I rode my Beamer, then my Harley just for fun, and let it be known I could do the ton. I felt the wind in my hair, riding bareback on my mare. I found and supported music I enjoyed. I bowed on stage and felt the joy. I discovered meditation and spiritual living, supported differences and was always giving. I rescued animals and learned on the go, grew my own garden with my own hoe. I developed my creativity by writing, produced films making life exciting. I dreamt dreams and made them come true. Witnessed the power of the ocean blue. I smelt the desert rain and experienced childbirth pain. I watched my children grow with hopes my parenting will show. I knew what I wanted and how to live, enjoy the small pleasures, but always give. I lived a life on my own free will, cherishing the moments full of thrill. Please do not mourn for me. I lived a life which was good to me.
Good day, everybody. Thank you for coming out. It means the whole world to my mom. She meant the world to me. Hard to put into words, really. I think she really taught me how to have an open mind. I'll probably start crying here, so I'm going to let my sister take over. She has a beautiful poem.
This poem is titled On the Death of the Beloved, and it is dedicated to Louise by her older sister, Marilee. Though we need to weep your loss, you dwell in that safe place in our hearts, where no storm or night or pain can reach you. Your love was like the dawn, brightening over our lives, awakening beneath the dark, a further adventure of color. The sound of your voice found for us a new music that brightened everything. Whatever you unfolded in your gaze, quickened in the joy of its being. You placed smiles like flowers on the altar of the heart. Your mind was always sparkling with wonders of things. Though your days here were brief, your spirit was alive, awake, complete. We look towards each other no longer from the old distance of our names. Now you dwell inside the rhythm of the breath, as close to us as we are to ourselves. Though we cannot see you with outward eyes, we know our soul's gaze is upon your face, smiling back at us from within everything, to which to bring our best refinement. Let us not look for you only in memory, where we would grow lonely without you. We would want us to find you in presence, beside us when the beauty brightens, when kindness glows, and music echoes eternal notes. When orchids brighten the earth, darkest winter has turned to spring. May this dark grief flower with hope in every heart that loves you. May you continue to inspire us to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love until we can see your beautiful face again. In that land where there is no more separation, where all tears will be wiped away from our minds, and where we will never lose you again. Thank you.
We have a few minutes now to share memories from the immediate family and close friends. Would anyone like to share a memory, a story, a thought about this remarkable woman? Don't be shy. You don't even have to come up here if you don't want to. You can stand where you are. Come on up, Seth. Thank you.
This is a little short, so let's put the microphone out. My name is Seth Randall. A lot of you know me already. I know a lot of you because of Louise. And before she left for Ecuador, Louise gave me this clear plastic pouch with a zipper on top. It was probably this thick. And it was filled with coffee house punch cards. I don't know if I've ever known anybody who loved coffee as much as Louise loved coffee. And you know, she and I had a lot of coffee meetings together when we were working on different film projects or talking about ideas or talking about life or our family or our friends. And I'm really grateful for those times we had together. And I know, having met Louise in, I think it was 2002, how much her family meant to her. Tom and Zach and Katie, and all the animals, the pug dogs, and a goat, and a chinchilla was, birds. She had birds. She really loved animals. And
Louise brought a lot of joy into a lot of people's lives, and I really feel blessed to have had her as part of my life. Did you ever see Louise type? I mean, she would fire away. She had those long fingernails, but she could still type. What was it, like 1,000 words a minute? It was like a hummingbird with with how quick she would just fire away on the keyboard. I hadn't planned anything ahead of time. Because there's an absence in my heart. But you know what? I feel so blessed and so grateful to have had Louise in my life, because she was the kind of person who helped the people around her, who grew the people around her and benefited the people around her. And that's a rare spirit, the kind of person who can make everyone around them even better than they were before. She was a blessing. And I'm so grateful that she had her short-lived retirement, that she was able to see the world, that at least more of Ecuador. She made a lot of friends. She loved that house she was living in. She worked so hard. She and I used to talk at 2 o'clock in the morning on the phone, or later, business. She'd be writing things up or doing research, and I know how hard, how diligently she worked, how much she gave of herself to all of us. So I'm really glad she had a chance to have some time with her and Tom, cruising around the mountains, rivers, and coasts of Ecuador. Are there coasts in Ecuador?
Yeah.
I wanted to let you all know that we have donated some copies of our film, The Fall of 55. They're over there on the table. They're up for grabs. We just ask that you please make a donation to one of the causes that was important to Louise, like the Alzheimer's Foundation. There's a page that Katie has put together with information on how you can donate. And finally, I just want to say a special thank you to Katie, who put this event together and who has been a rock. She's been willing to listen to people like me while I was crying and be strong. And Zach, your mom would be so proud of you. She loved all of you so much. I love you all. Somebody else's turn.
I met Tom doing theater, and through him, Louise. When the Reverend talked about writing a single word on a leaf for the tree, one word instantly came to my mind, and that word was trust. Louise asked me to participate in some of her projects, and when you create something from your heart and you to bring it to life, the amount of trust you put in that person to do that, to do it honor. She made me want to rise to that challenge and do right by her and her works and her words. So that's my word.
Their word or a memory, something that her son and daughter and husband don't know about her, but you do. Keep it clean. Now you keep it clean.
This story goes back a long time, back to 1983 probably. When I read the poem, what I liked, Katie had a word in there, was thrill. Looking for fun, excitement. I'll tell you a little story where she overdid the thrill. back in Chicago, we had our motorcycles. Back in '83, you didn't see women on motorcycles, if ever. But she put on the whole outfit. She was leather bibs, jacket, gloves, stop. Boots, black helmet on an all black motorcycle. She had a BMW, small one, 650, but it was nice. And we were coming home one day, and when you ride on a motorcycle, if you don't know, you kind of stagger when you come to an intersection side by side. And we were in the left-hand lane. Car pulls up with 4 young 20-year-old guys in there right next to us, pulls up at the light. And they could sense they're all like, ooh, and she looked great. You know, her all black leather, which is probably a lot of people's fantasies, maybe. I don't know. But so we're sitting there, and I can see that these guys are all kind of, wow, it's a babe on a motorcycle. Oh my goodness. And so I looked over at her and gestured out, seeing what they're saying, and I said, come on, shut up. So she looked at me like, yeah, right, okay. So the light turns green, and she gunned it, popped the clutch, picked up the wheel about 3 feet, plopped it back down, and never let off the throttle, and popped it up again, and flew right through the intersection. Took off. I'm like, not what I meant, but that looked cool. And by the time I caught up to her at the next intersection, she's there, kind of shaky, and she looks up her visor and she says, well, are you happy now? So a little bit of fun, a little bit of good luck.
Would anybody? As we move to the conclusion of our time in ceremony, I just want to please do a flag. Please create a flag. There's lots of things to help you do it, or write your own word so that her beautiful daughter can sew it together and have a memory. And what about your word? Who would like to call out their word right now that you wrote or that you're going to write? Who would like to call your word out?
Friend.
Say again?
Friend.
Friend. Trust, we've heard. Creative, we've heard.
Adventurer.
Adventurer, we've heard.
Lucky.
Loving. And lovely. Unafraid. Wouldn't you say? Courageous. A woman who was a parachutist, rode motorcycles, taught herself to play the flute, traveled around the world, taught her children in school long before it was popular to homeschool, yes? If somebody challenged her to do it, she found a way to do it. And we've heard from Seth and from so many of you earlier how much she lifted you, because you see, I think the legacy of someone is not in how much money they make or their accomplishment, rather how much they love and lifted people in their life. This is the legacy of this woman. And so Louise has left us for glorious new territory. The new territory that we can only dream about, that we really can never know. We can only speculate about it. But one irrefutable truth that I do know is that she hasn't really left us. She's now with all of us simultaneously. And I believe the word that came to your mind and to your heart was her last gift to you. If you said trust, Louise is saying, you must be that trust for others that I was for you. Loving. Louise's last gift to you is saying, please carry my legacy of loving on. And in that, I will never die, but I will live eternally. So Louise is in some new dimension of life, in some new higher dimension of spirit itself, and somebody there needs a friend, and Louise is being a friend. Someone needs a film made and she's showing them how. Somebody needs the truth spoken and she's speaking it. This is her legacy. This is who she is. And so, yes, today we do need to weep and to grieve because she will be so missed. And in those moments of our missing, we want to remember this moment of celebration where we came together to honor what she brought to all of us. And we want to hold that close in our hearts. And most of all, we want to remember her daughter and son and husband. We want to hold them and send them vibrations of energy and love. This woman lived an amazing life. And so I ask you right now, where you are, to please stand up right where you are right now and give the life of Louise Luster a standing ovation. Yes! Yes! Yes, Louise! Let us turn within. In whatever faith tradition is comfortable to you, to hold the space of love, to hold the space of memory, and we move forth now. Our lives greater, our lives richer, more profoundly feeling life itself because Louise was a part of our lives. We say thank you, Infinite Spirit. Thank you, living, loving God Almighty, for recreating yourself and showing us love in the nature and the form of Louise. And so we go forth now, more open, more loving, more courageous, trusting more, loving more, being more, because of the gift of her life. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. We release it now. It is done. And so it is. Amen. Amen. The celebration continues. The celebration of her life continues. We ask if anybody wants to come up and do a sharing, the microphone will stay open for a while, but also you want to share, there's some of her favorite desserts and some lemonade and some iced tea. You want to share with each other over there. Please take time to do the leaf and to do the flag, to look at all of these amazing things as we celebrate her life. And most of all, I ask that you remember what she stood for: friendship, love, and strength. Go forth with the love of God supporting you, sustaining you, and going before you. Amen.
So why don't we get up and go have some music?